Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Israeli jazz pianist Ari Erev. We caught up with him in mid-June to talk about his fourth solo album, the new 2020 CD, Close to Home, done with a stellar cast of musicians exploring the many spaces and places that a 21st century musician calls home. Over the years, he has performed regularly in Israel and Europe in piano solo or trio settings. His music blends a deep classical touch, producing on intimate, delicate, and emotional styles, which are inspired by pianists that he's always dug, like Bill Evans, Kenny Barron, and Fred Hersch. He's got a great story. Enjoy. Thanks for taking a minute out for Neon Jazz, man. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So where exactly are you located in the world?
I'm located in Israel, not far from Tel Aviv, which is like the, not inside Tel Aviv, outside, a bit outside.
Kind of watching Israel and that region here around the world, how's everything going? How you all, I mean, along with COVID, obviously, there's tensions going on. How's the morale over there?
Well, COVID is pretty much over here. Yesterday they lifted off the last restriction, which was to have to wear masks in closed doors, and now even that is not obligatory anymore. And the only thing that still is a restriction is when you come in from abroad, you have to do some tests and fill some forms. But other than that, and hopefully this stays like that for the future, things are back to normal.
I wanted to catch up with you, about your life and music, namely your 2021 CD, Close to Home. It's your fourth album, full of wonderful musicians. Talk to me a little bit about this coming out during this time where there's not been a lot of live music, and it's been one of the very few ways you can communicate with your audience. How does this feel to see this album out now?
Right. Well, it was recorded during the COVID period. We had three major lockdowns in Israel, and that was after the first one, or between the first and the second. When we didn't even know that the second is coming, we were optimistic. After the first one was lifted off, then things are kind of back to normal, but that wasn't the case eventually. But at that period of few weeks, we were able to record it. And fortunately, nobody was on quarantine or ill. That was a big luck, because otherwise, I don't know how, with all that going on, would be able to have everybody, in the same place.
Without a doubt.
Regarding live music is back in the last, let's say, two months or so, 2 or 3, more than 2 months. At first with some restrictions, like smaller venues or less people in the venue. But now everything is back to normal, so it's a big joy.
Without a doubt. Yeah, it's been getting that way here in the States. I am also with an eye on Europe, where I also play from time to time, tours in Europe, and there the situation is not so finite. I mean, things are still lagging there. So, on that perspective, that's bad news. It's definitely different all around the world. I've talked to a lot of musicians in Canada that are in the same boat. But with this release here, what do you ultimately want the listener to get? Those that download or buy this album, how do you want them to feel about this project?
I'm not sure I have a good answer. I mean, this is something I have to say musically. I hope there is some audience out there that will like that music and maybe will feel emotionally connected with the pieces. And I don't I think that for commercial music, maybe you defining your audience and trying to be there for them with the right type of music. This is not the case in my case. Things are just coming out. The group of tunes that I decided to put in the album is the group of tunes. I don't have a very specific music title on that.
How did this jazz work? How did all of this jazz begin for you in your childhood? How did you get into this, and how did this become your passion?
I played music, classical music, trained as a classical musician as a child. My father was an amateur pianist, really amateur, not doing any performances or something like that. But he would sit on the piano from time to time, and, play some tunes from notes, from charts that he bought. And maybe this was the beginning. I was fascinated by the harmony, by the rich harmony of jazz, and I think that attraction to rich harmony is still with me today. I mean, people that listen or write about my music, all of them, point out that rich harmony in the way I play, in the way I compose, is an important or a major characteristic. So I think that stayed with me.
What about jazz musicians? Who really inspired you to love jazz and to go after it?
This is an easier question. I think the most, at least in the first years or in the early years of me as a professional musician, for sure, Bill Evans was my mentor. I mean, I listened to many of his records and did a transcription of his solos, and I was fascinated by the way he approached this music and everything that he did. For me, everything as he did was like a miracle. So for sure, this was a great influence, certainly in the first years. Then, I understood that I'm maybe too much connected with this music, and I tried to develop my own voice and listen to, other musicians. And from the pianists, of course, Keith Jarrett, Chick Corea, in the recent years, Fred Hersch, who else? The Latin one, Gonzalo Rubalcaba, and what was his name? The other name was Michel Camilo.
Yeah, what was the first live jazz show that you ever saw that made you feel like, wow, that's amazing?
Well, that was really early on. I think there was in Israel. There is still. I think he's still alive, or maybe he died just a few years ago. What was his name? He was a Jamaican person from Jamaica, but he lived in Israel. I forgot the name. Sorry.
You're fine.
Maybe I will remind myself. He played Caribbean music, but with a lot of jazz in it, and he had an Israeli group that accompanied him, and I think that was the first live show that I saw in Israel. Of course, since then I saw a lot of other things, great musicians. I even I didn't see Bill Evans play, but I was very close to it in 81, in 80, I arrived to London. That is before internet, okay? So I didn't know the timetable of all the music in London, and I arrived in London, bought the Time Out magazine to see what's going on there, and that was like in 10 o'clock in the morning when I just arrived, and to my disappointment, I saw that Bill Evans just finished 2 weeks of playing at Ronnie Scott's the night before.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a really big disappointment.
What do you like the best about being a musician? Every day you wake up, you have the chance to create and make music. What is it that you like the best about that?
I don't know. It's part of my life. I am not really analyzing it too much. There are times I simply have to be on the piano. That's it. I mean, at least for the compositional part, for the creative part, it's something that happens just like that. I hear some music, I think about something, and the next minute I'm on the piano, trying to do something with this idea.
No, you answered it. That's exactly what I was looking for. As the world starts opening up now and live music is starting back up, what do you hope we all realize about the power of live music that we've been away from for so long?
People appreciate things that are missing. When you have it, you don't think about it. When you don't have it, you understand how much you need it. Like air. I mean, if you don't have air, you will, very quickly you will feel the absence of air. And I think this is exactly what happens to music. And now that things are back to normal, people want music a lot, and they want to see not only music, every cultural event. But I suspect, to my disappointment, that this will change, and go back to what it was before. I don't think that people will continue to estimate or over appreciate the fact that they have music in their life. It's kind of like air.
Why do you love jazz?
I think I answered that. I think that the combination of rich harmony, which is something I kind of feel inside when I hear rich harmony with as a musician, I can say, well, what it is there? It's a -5 or a +11 or something. I really like that with the combination of the rhythm. And of course, the fact that as a player, as a performing musician, I'm able to play the same music all over again and not get bored by it, because improvisation lets you do the same tunes over and over again, but every time it's a bit different. So you can bring yourself to the music every time in a different way. So I think that's jazz for me. It's always developing. Not every time it's not the same.
If you come to Kansas City and play a live show, explain to me what a live show would be like, or what you would say to somebody that was thinking about coming to see you live, to kind of push them to that point to see you play music live.
I would say that if he likes music that has the potential to talk to his emotions, then he should go. Because my music, I think of my music, and I have feedbacks that the music has a lot of emotion in it, the way I play, the way I compose it. Of course, not all the tunes are the same. It's not all ballads that makes you cry, but even with the diversity of style, like Latin style and swing and some rock based rhythms, I'm able probably to do things that move people. So I think this is what I will tell a person that he's going to hear.
Beautiful. So everyone has their idea or their perception of who they think you are. Your family, your friends, your fans. But you're the one that's living your life. Who do you think you are?
Yeah, well, I can tell you that I think every artist, not only music, every artist has this question how other people perceive him. In some ways, it may affect his future creation. Maybe yes, maybe no. It depends on the artist. It depends how much he wants to be influenced by by other people thinking of him. But when I perform in a festival or specifically when I release an album, this is also not only a way from me to output my doings to the public, but it also gives me some perspective on how this music is perceived by the public, or at least by people like you. I mean, music reviewers or music experts that in such a case, in such a time, they have the opportunity to tell me what they think when they write a review and when they say a few words before they play it on the radio. So it's a nice thing for me to have unmediated input back on what I am doing. Not that I will necessarily do something with it or change something in what I'm doing, but I feel more confident that what I think about how my music sounds and what my music does to people is indeed what some of the feedbacks I get. So it's good to know.
That's a great answer, man. Hey, thank you for opening up today about your new work, about the world we're living in and your life in jazz. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you very much for being there and asking.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Israel, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Ari for his time, music, and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit Neon Jazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.